Hi, this is Chris from EssentialSQL. I know many of you want to take your SQL skills to the next level, yet some of you may be on the fence. You may wonder, what is it all about, or whether there's value in doing so. In this video, I want to talk about combining data from different tables, and my hope is that once you are done watching this video, you, like me, will be super excited to learn more and take your skills further. So let's start with a basic question. Why learn to combine data? Why learn set operators, joins, and subqueries? Well, I want to give you a couple reasons or examples. First, by learning to combine data, you'll get query results you otherwise couldn't. It's plain and simple. You'll no longer be limited to using canned reports and views, nor will you have to limit yourself to data contained in one table. Plus, you'll master the skill, you'll gain confidence in writing queries. Learning how to do joins and subqueries can be frustrating, trust me, but once you learn them, not only will you have passed one of the greatest stumbling blocks in SQL, but you'll have made your job easier and you'll reduce your frustration. It's a win-win if you ask me. There's a saying that goes, if you give a man a fish, you have fed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you have fed him for a lifetime. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard that one at some point or another. So do you want to be given a fish every day? Do you want to have to depend on one another or another person to pull your data? If you're like me, the answer is of course not. Once you learn to combine data from tables, you won't have to rely on others to write your queries or retrieve your data. In addition, you'll reduce or eliminate all that frustration and confusion that comes with trying to figure it all out in the first place. You're worried about the difference between a subquery and a join? Don't be. I'll show you the difference, and I'll show you where to use each of them. Most of all, I'll show you where to start. You see, I'm really passionate about SQL. I want to help you get started in an easy to follow step-by-step manner. I want you to use your time wisely so you focus on what's important to learn. I also want to help you answer your questions, really. I've been working with databases for over 25 years. In fact, I've worked as a developer, an analyst, and a DBA during those times. I've gotten to really know how to use databases as well as empathize with those that don't. Whether you're an IT professional or someone in business that wants to harness the power of SQL to rock their job, I can help. Before we dig into joins and subqueries, I want to first teach you a really cool tip I learned to find related tables in a database. This is important as if you want to learn to combine data from different tables, knowing the relationships or how the data is structured is key. So one great way to find related tables is to create a database diagram. So I'm going to open up the AdventureWorks database and then right click on database diagrams and say new database diagram. This will open a pane here, and I can select what I'll call the central table, and what this will then do is find all the tables that are related to that central table. So I'm going to pick employee as my central table and hit add. You can see here nothing remarkable has happened yet. It just added the employee table to our diagram. However, now if I right click and say add related tables, what it does is it goes out and finds all the tables that are related to the employee table. You can see it's been going and filling in. Now they're all kind of stacked up and hard to read, so I can right click again and then say arrange tables. And so now you can see where we have our diagram laid out, and I'm going to right click and zoom to fit just to show you what it looks like here on my screen, and then I'm going to just use the control key and mouse wheel just to kind of zoom in a little bit. So a couple of things I want to show you here. First, it'll show you where the table is related to another, so I have employee related to employee pay history, and the other thing is to pay attention to the little symbols on the relationship. So here you can see a key. The key means that this is pointing to the primary key. So chances are, it's going to be the business entity ID, and it means there's just one match on this side. When you see the little infinite sign here, it looks like a little chain link. That means there could be 0 or many on this side. And if you kind of look at the columns here, you're going to see that business entity ID is common in both, right? So these tables related through business entity ID. One business entity ID and employee will match to one or more in employee pay history. As a person gets raises, more records are going to be found in this table. So to confirm this, we can also right-click on the relationship and look at the properties. And here you'll see table and column specifications. And I can find out what the primary unique base table is. So here it's employee. It's using business entity ID as the column to match to the foreign key, which is business entity ID. And here's the foreign key base. This is a one-to-many match because the business entity ID is a partial primary key on that pay history table. So there may be some tables in here where we have a one-to-one match. Let's see if I can find one. Well, right here is one with employee and person. See how there's a key on each side? You know, I say one-to-one, but you gotta be careful because really it could be one employee and 0 people. It all depends on how the data rules are set up. I would think just by looking at this, unless there's something wrong with their application, that each time you add an employee, there'd be a person, but that might not be the case. Regardless, if you do find one employee, you'll find at most one person because the business entity ID is the primary key in person as well as an employee. So this is a really cool trick to use to find related tables. You can then extend it. I could say add related tables to person, and you can see now it's even pulling in more tables to person, and then right click and say arrange. I'm still pulling them in. Getting ahead of myself here. Now I can say arrange tables, and you can see now that person's here and it's started bringing in other tables. So to do a zoom to fit, this to show you all of what's been brought in. You can see now it's brought in even more. So I had employee here and now person. So you can kind of fill out the relationships. Now this depends on the fact that someone's defined the constraints, but if that's been done, this is a great way to go in and start exploring your database and understanding table relationships. Can you see where that tip can save a bunch of time? Not only can it find related tables, but it draws them out. It's a pretty cool tip if you ask me. Before we continue, I want to answer some of the most popular questions I've gotten regarding learning SQL. Many people have asked me, where do I start? There's so many ways to combine data, it can be daunting. I can help you here. I have a plan I'll share with you that starts at the beginning, and building upon a foundation takes you step by step through the various methods to combine data. I've also been asked, will it take a long time to learn SQL? SQL does take a long time to learn, but the good news is you can learn SQL in bite-sized chunks. That means you don't have to spend hours in a classroom to gain value from the lessons. Also, I've been asked, is SQL worth learning? And of course it is. SQL is commonly listed in the top 10 or 15 languages to learn. If you're curious about this, just Google most popular programming languages 2015. You'll get a bunch of hits, and you look at those blog articles, you're going to see lots of references to the popularity of SQL. Another common question I hear is, which database should I learn first? Well, I teach Microsoft SQL Server. The reason I do is that it's readily available and in widespread use throughout business and corporations worldwide. If you learn Microsoft SQL, your skills can easily be translated to DB2, Oracle, or Progress. The various vendor dialects aren't exactly the same, especially when it comes to their functions, such as uppercase and UCase, but the main SQL statements are SQL compliant, and the concept to learn from one vendor's implementation can easily translate to another. A final question I want to address is fear. It's really an issue. I think many of my students fear that they won't be able to understand complicated statements. Part of that stems from where to start, but the other part is they look at a very long statement, especially those 20 to 30 line commands, and they look very intimidating. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Every statement, however complicated, is just a series of simple commands built on top of one another. What I like doing is starting with a simple statement and one we can run and see results, and then step by step building upon that foundation until a final result is achieved. So we build upon success. And then if we have a little failure along the way, we know where the failure is, and it's easy to troubleshoot. I think you'll find that this makes it totally easier to understand the overall statement, and also easier to diagnose any errors. So I'm pretty excited to share with you some practical tips and tricks. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to find duplicate values within a table. And to do this, we're going to explore what are called self-joins. In the meantime, I'd really like to hear from you. Let's take some action. I value your feedback. It helps me provide you with better material. Leave a comment about your biggest obstacle to learning SQL. I totally appreciate it.